Wink News begins with breaking news.
Breaking this morning, Hurricane Michael strengthened to a Category 4 hurricane ahead of a Florida landfall. We have the new forecast track. But first, our other big story this morning, no arrests after a double murder in a packed Fort Myers mall.
That's right. Wink News reporter Andrea Henderson is live at the Bell Tower shops where it's still a major and active crime scene this morning. Andrea, witnesses say 2 guys were actually targeted.
Yeah, Michelle, Lindsay, certainly a sad night here in Fort Myers. You can see this morning behind we are across the street, but if you look behind me, you can see a majority of Bell Tower from where we're standing still taped off this morning. A number of investigators still there. Now, we actually talked to a woman last night who says she saw her husband and son killed right in front of her here last night. If you can even imagine what that must have been like. She says they were having dinner at TGI Fridays for her birthday. Her husband and son walked outside for a cigarette when someone started shooting. Now, the sheriff's office confirms that this was a targeted shooting, they believe. When our crews got on scene last night, they saw that woman. She was on the ground crying. One of our reporters actually went up and started comforting her. She said she saw her own family with several gunshot wounds. One witness we talked to last night says whoever did this was not shooting in self-defense. They were shooting to kill.
I was working at Mimi's Cafe, and then 2 black males started opening fire at that family, and I watched one go down and the other one run and then go down over there. One went down over there, and then I personally watched him stumble twice and then fall and then not move again.
And of course, this is a pretty busy area. There were a number of people here last night when this happened. Several witnesses we talked to saying the same thing. They heard anywhere from 20 to 30 gunshots. They say at one point they even heard those shots stopped. It sounded like they reloaded before several more shots. Now, witnesses even giving specifics about what kind of a gun it sounded like was going off in the shopping center last night. I'll have more on that and more as we try to get more details about the suspects coming up. For now, live here in Fort Myers, Andrea Henderson, Wink News now.
Packed with people who saw the shooting, some shaken by what happened. One woman tweeted, "I have never heard such screaming in my life. My heart goes out to the broken soul whose life was shattered tonight." Wink News is staying on top of the story for you, and we're going to have live coverage throughout the morning as investigators still work the crime scene out there.
And overnight, Michael strengthened to a Category 4 hurricane and will slam the Panhandle in just a few hours.
Wink News, the Weather Authority, has team coverage on the impacts here and the catastrophe coming to the northern coast. Let's start with meteorologist Matt Devitt. And Matt, as this continues to move, it just seems like it's strengthening as it's heading towards landfall.
Terrible, terrible news. I mean, the situation continues to, trend more towards the worst case scenario. I just got an update within the past few minutes from the Hurricane Center. The pressures apparently have dropped even more. It is continuing to strengthen. I have never seen a Category 4 making landfall in the Florida Panhandle. And in fact, if it does make landfall as such, that would be the strongest in recorded history. Normally, we've had some Cat 3s. Dennis in 2005, Opal in 1995. It is strengthening at this early hour. And the reason why we know that, we have the hurricane hunters very actively flying through the storm. And then now you can see the bands of wind and rain. And then there's going to be the worst part of the storm where they could see those wind gusts hitting about 145 miles an hour. It's certainly a possibility. Right now, it's about 100 to 110 miles offshore of where ultimately it will be making landfall. So here are the stats. And if you've been watching Wink so far this morning, the pressure at 5 was at 943 millibars. Well, apparently they hit the core, the hurricane hunters did, and they found a pressure of 937 millibars. The system is deepening. The pressures are lowering, meaning that it is strengthening. And right now the stats, it is a solid Category 4, and it is expected to continue to strengthen towards landfall as a 4. And you can see the areas impacted from Apalachicola towards Panama City before eventually weakening towards the Carolinas. It is going to be a fast and furious storm. And here's a look hour by hour. You can see the eye wall pushing on shore near Apalachicola. And then here's going to be that threat for wind gusts over 100 to even hitting 140, leading to downed trees. Roads will be impassable. power outages for days and weeks. Look at Tallahassee. They could see the eastern part of that eye wall, and then it crosses over into Georgia by tonight. But it also is the threat for life-threatening storm surge. The levels from the Gulf could hit 9 to 13 feet, shaded in purple from the Big Bend all the way towards the Panhandle. Even look at Panama City. Can't rule out a 6 to 9 foot surge. And then obviously it gets better as we go down towards our area, but we still will see a noticeable water rise on the tail end of Michael at high tide this afternoon. We had that yesterday. We're going to have that again for today, 1 to 3 feet. Right now tracking a few areas of rain, and for the very latest on that, let me bring in Brittany Van Voorhees. Brittany?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. We are starting to see some of that rainfall, but it is very, very minor this morning. We're seeing on Doppler in Charlotte County near Port Charlotte, just to the west, some light shower activity. Not too bad this morning, but that is going to go up as we head throughout the day. So something to just be aware of as you head out the door this afternoon. The rain, relatively minor, but of course the wind is going to pick up. We'll see sustained wind up to about 20 miles per hour at times.
And team coverage continues live from Tallahassee, close to where the center of the storm will hit tonight.
Wink News reporter Brooke Schaefer has been there as families and businesses have been preparing and now boarding up.
Yeah, Lindsay, Michelle, good morning. Like you said, businesses like this AutoZone here in Tallahassee this morning, they are boarded up. Yesterday, they were taking customers. Today, well, it's a very different story. And across Tallahassee, let's talk about shelters. Right now, they've got 6 shelters across the city. We stopped at one yesterday that was already at capacity. They had about 100 people in that shelter, and many of them people from coastal areas where the storm surge, like Matt has been talking about all morning long, is forecast to be extremely dangerous. People leaving their homes and instead coming here seeking shelter in those places across Tallahassee. And as we inch closer to what some are calling a monster storm, Tallahassee and the people that I've spoken with are getting as prepared as possible.
We got charcoal and water and lighter fluid and stuff like that, and got gasoline. We were trying to find it this morning and everything. So.
And some people we've spoken with also even just driving hours away from their homes just to find shelter. People really getting prepared as we inch closer to Hurricane Michael. Live in Tallahassee, I'm Brooke Schaefer, Wink News Now.
And now is the time to download the Wink weather app to get updated forecast tracks for Michael first. It's free in your app store.
And breaking news right now out of Fort Myers. Police are on the scene of another shooting in the Dunbar neighborhood. Wink News reporter Nicole Lauren is at the scene. Nicole, what can you tell us?
Michelle, Fort Myers Police Department has confirmed there was a shooting here on Thomas Street. Now, what we do know was the man who was shot was transported to the hospital, but I want to get you out to the scene to show you what we're looking at here. This is all centered around the house, the first light post you're looking at on the right. That house right there with the white car in the driveway. Now, one thing you might notice here as you're looking at the scene is there are people in the crime scene who are not police officers. We're unaware how they're related to the investigation. We've seen at least 2 men, 1 blonde woman who was already transported out of the crime scene here. Like I said, we are unaware how they're related to the investigation, if they're witnesses or not. But I also do want to point out that we are extremely close to a school. It is the Franklin Park School. It is just a short walk away here, but those are the only details we have so far. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. In Fort Myers, Nicole Lauren, Wink News Now.
And back out live to Bell Tower, where there was a shooting overnight. A woman telling us she was celebrating her birthday when her husband and son were shot. 2 others are still in the hospital. We're staying on top of the scene as investigators try to search for clues and suspects.